Right, I'm setting up at the moment. I will be ready in a sec. Like a wabbit baby. Turn the light on. The light that lets us see the workspace, that is. Get into position. I'm going to share the stuff in the Discord. Then I will be ready to go. Alright, I don't think there's any other setup I need to do before we get started, so that is exactly what I'll do. I will get started. So welcome everybody to the stream. Not the stream I planned tonight, but perhaps it's the stream I meant to have tonight. So I thank you all for joining me today. I will be painting these models here. Not that model. Our action figure. I will not be painting this guy. I guess we can get a closer look at him real quick. So yeah, he's looks pretty good. My brother got this for me because of reasons I don't know. Well, sufficeth to say he wanted one thing, but he decided to get another, so I ended up being the recipient of this guy. So one day I'll paint him up. It might be a stream on his own, but for now, we're putting him off to the side. Because these four are the main focus of tonight. So I'm happy we'll be painting those guys up. And not only will we be painting stuff up, but I'll also be talking about heroisms, but particularly the heroic monomyth, as laid out by Joseph Campbell. I will be discussing an abridged version as was put down in Tracy and Curtis Hickman's Extreme Dungeon Mastery, the Exceedingly Extreme 2nd Edition. Illustrated by Howard Tyler, edited by Sander Tyler, with an introduction by Jim Zup. Well, Yeah, so just gonna quickly turn to the part of the book with it. So here it is. So here's a look at the Campbellian monomyth, as the book calls it. Call to Adventure, Threshold, and examples of the Threshold. Well, before that, there's the Mentor. Then after Threshold, Road of Trials. Then Helpers, Attaining the Prize with examples of the prize. Return Flight, Threshold Return, and examples of what that entails, which is crossing the threshold back into where you were before, and completed by Homecoming. But you are not the same when it comes time to go home. The person who left technically does not return. Someone else returns. And I don't mean that literally. I mean in a metaphorical sense. And we can try and get into that as we discuss it. But before we do that, it's time... Oh, the light was too low. But before that, we can set up our visual interest for tonight. So get the wet palette ready. Most of the paints are still good to go. I can already tell some of them aren't. I may have to pull out some more, replace the sheets, but we'll try and work with what we have. And I got this. I'd been looking for this for a while, but I just found it today. This is what I want to use as my water tray, I guess. Well, not a tray. My water cup, yes. Glass container thing. I was using this for the last stream, but I decided I won't. I'll still use it in tandem with that, though, because this one's a little more soapy, and that may have an effect on the models. Okay? I can't think of any more preamble I can do, so let's get to it. So, for those who do not know, I am painting these space marines up like salamanders of the space marines from Warhammer 40k. Which reminds me, I need to grab my salamander book so I know how to paint them. So I'll just quickly grab that. It's not too far, so I can just walk over here. Yoink. And I have it. And I can come back with it. I could have grabbed my Horus Heresy 2nd edition book, but I don't think I'll need that till I start working on the Horus Heresy models. These are strictly 40k models for the most part. So, I'm going to be informed by a 40k codex for their painting. Okay. So, this is the book I will be consulting for painting these guys. Okay, so I'm going to try and pull up I'll just move something off to the side there so I can put the book down. Just consult. Yeah, this is a good gun, but the vast majority of these guys are using flamers. There's a good example of a salamander. Here we go. I think I may refer to this page when painting them, but I'm going to see if there's a page that specifically has specifically has flamers. Well, these are flamers, but I feel like these are more Terminator type flamers. Not too much more to look through before I have to just settle on an example. Yeah, so I'll just settle on not this page, but the page before it. Yeah, this page. I'll settle on these pages as my example for how to paint these guys up. I don't know if I'll go that detailed tonight, but I'm just going to put the book over there and refer to that as needed. Okay, so let's get the paints set up. Right. I use apple barrel paints, which I have back there. So, gonna need some greens. This is Laguna. Oh, and I have these greens over here. So I have evergreen, old ivy, just some dollar store acrylic green paint. Let's see what's here. Here we are. Lemade Kelly Green. Okay, let's check here before I settle down. Atlanta. I don't think I'll need this, but I'll just grab it just in case. This is Mermaid. No. This is the only other green here. The Cabana Stripe. So these are the greens I'll use for this. There will be other colors used, but I'll refer to those as the night goes on. Right, I'll start with a darker green before I am, and then gradually work up to lighter greens. So I'm going to ascertain which is the darkest green I have. Okay. Pretty sure this is the darkest I have, so I'll start with this. Let's shake it up some. Okay, good. Give it a good shake. Okay, I think that's good. I'll just put it on the wet palette here. There. Put that over there. Oh, now's a good time to show off what I got in the mail. I got other things, but I'll show them off as I needed. I'll just go ahead and start with this. Some more Gorilla Glue. I don't think I'll need them tonight, but you've seen me use Gorilla Glue on the channel before, on the last stream, so I thought it was good to show off now. But the main thing are these plastic transfer pipettes by Kobarili, 3mm. So, thought these would make getting the water I need for applying, for thinning out my paints. Yes, that's it. Applying the water I need for thinning my paints out easier. Okay, so that's what I'll do. I'll set that up. I don't need much, just enough. One more drop. There we go. I'll use more as needed. Okay, so first off, let's get this in a good tip. I think that's a good tip. Okay, now let's thin this. I need a good consistency. I think that's pretty good. And I talked to my brother about thinning paints and just the behavior of acrylic, so I should have a better handle on using these. So use them I shall. Here we go. Starting with this leg here. Okay. I may go darker for the other guys, but as an initial base color, I think this does a pretty good job. And it'll definitely be a good test of how much the acrylic shrinks when it dries too. In case you can't hear, I have some ambience in the back. I think it's called the Artist Studio. Just some fireplace and some chirping birds. That'd be good background noise for while we're doing this. Okay. Try and use up the paint in the brush before bringing up heroism. Yes, because this isn't just a paint stream tonight. This is a topic of discussing heroes and what makes them heroes. And I think a good way to start that is discussing the monomyth. So I'm quickly going to bring up the part of XDM that has that. Okay. Sorry, I got a little distracted. Okay, here we go. Just move some stuff off to the side so I can put the book down comfortably. There we go. Alright, so I think I will get started by the start of the journey, which is Call to Adventure. Okay, I'll take a quick drink before I do that. Okay. So, I won't be reading each one as in the book verbatim, but because this first one and a few other parts of this are pretty short, I'll just start with the I'll just go ahead and read this one to start. Call to Adventure. This is the event which draws the protagonists out of the status quo. So, most people don't become heroes because they wake up and think, I'm gonna be a hero today. Yeah, that's just not how most people are. People tend to become heroes because, as Teddy Roosevelt talked about, how responsibility can be thrust upon you. And the responsibility of heroism is one of those things that gets thrusted upon by circumstance or by individuals. Sometimes both. And I feel like for a lot of heroes in most stories, that is the case. Yeah, an exception to that would be Chosen One stories. But, yeah. I feel like everyone is a chosen one in some form or fashion, but to keep things simple, we're just gonna talk about regular people rising to the occasion tonight. We can talk about chosen ones some other time. Maybe tonight, but we'll just see how things go before we really get into it. Okay, just make sure that this thing is going well. And have to be careful that the paint's not too thin. That's a little much, but I can make this work. Okay. Okay. So, the call to adventure. Sometimes it could be a war, but it's like you hear news about a war and you feel the responsibility to fight the good fight. Such cases of that type of call to adventure is Captain America. Regardless of whether he was physically able to at the time to actually go to war, didn't really matter to him. He felt the call and he wanted to answer the call. His biggest challenge in that regard was people actually accepting his answer to call. Which, as a lot of people know, he was given the chance and he ended up becoming one of the greatest heroes of all time. Other times, as is with Star Wars, was circumstances force you to do it. Well, it's like Luke Skywalker's aunt and uncle were killed, so it was either be a hero or be homeless. Yeah, it sounds a little callous when I say it like that, but That is the reality of his situation. And another call to adventure or call to action, how depending on who it is Batman. Well, his whole circumstance was kind of a call for him. He lost his parents, and he realized there was a problem that caused people like him and people less fortunate than him to lose stuff. So he realized something had to be done if the world, or at the very least his city, were to be in a state to where such tragedies weren't as common an occurrence as it was when he lost his parents. So he took his tragedy as a call, and he answered that call, and he went on to save his city, or at the very least the soul of his city. In some iterations, you can definitely say he succeeded. It's harder to say that in the ongoing comics because, they're ongoing. They never really end. But the fact is, he fights to make a difference, and he doesn't stop. He may not see himself as a hero, but his actions would speak otherwise. So that is how Batman could be seen as someone who answers the call of a hero. But gotta try and remember to keep this mini in the frame. Okay. Try not to get the pauldron too much, because the pauldron's not going to be green, it's going to be pure black. Okay. Yeah, just this good paint thinning practice for me. Okay. Yeah, these framers probably would have benefited more from the sub-assembly approach, but I feel like I'm doing pretty good as is. Yeah, there will be black applied to this guy, and just want to do the color that's brighter than black first, or colors brighter than black first, then I'll apply black where needed. Okay, so any other examples of the call to action? Oh yeah, Spider-Man. His call to action wasn't when he got his powers. It was the consequence of using them incorrectly. That was his call, because choosing not to use his powers responsibly resulted in a personal loss for him. And he realized that if he had been more responsible with his powers, he would not have lost his uncle. But he at least remembered his uncle's words about, with great power comes great responsibility, so he remembered that he might have failed his uncle then, but he doesn't have to fail anyone else, so he fights to make sure that his powers are used in a responsible manner. And that was his call to heroism. And again, in some versions of Spider-Man's story, he does succeed and saves the day and changes the world around him, if not the entire world. But, yeah, again, on the ongoing side of things, that's just a real mess. I won't get into that, but sufficeth to say, it's the stories where he actually has an end to his fighting is preferable to what ended up happening in the comics. Okay. I think this guy's first layer of green is almost done. Then I will move on to another figure. Now, I'll put a a little more green on his head. Okay. There. So let's see if I can get that to focus. Yeah, he's looking pretty nice. Well, got a little off on me, but not so much that I felt like it really messed up the paintwork. So I'll just let him dry as I work on someone else now. Get the paint off my hand onto him. Okay, so let's okay. Now let's use some more thinned paint. Yeah, I'm really trying to practice thinning the paints. I watched a lot of videos on properly painting your minis, and I'm trying to remember those lessons. Just doing my best to do justice by these guys. This guy has kind of an arm-mounted control thing, so that's going to require some fiddly paint work. But it's okay. I don't have to do much to his face because of his skin color. For those of you who do not know, salamanders have onyx black skin, like not black as in African American black, but black as in this black. Yeah, actual black. It has to do with their homeworld and how it affected their creation process, and their genes are gene seed if you want to get lore accurate. So fun stuff, but yeah, not really relevant to tonight's discussion, but it's something to keep in mind when painting their skin color. Okay, so now the next part of our heroism topic, the mentor. And I guess kind of crossing the threshold. We'll see how much the two topics interlap as we talk about them. So, the mentor's the person. It could be your parents, your Uncle Ben, or your aunt and uncle. Yeah, it could be just about an actual mentor whose purpose is to teach you stuff. Yeah, a mentor can be almost anyone or anything, depending on the story and the individual. So, they teach them all they need to know to face the world, and they teach them the values of being a hero. One famous example of value teaching as a mentor is Superman's parents, Ma and Pa Kent. Martha Kent and Jonathan Kent. Those are both good examples for a really great character. Just instilling those nice traditional American values of right and wrong and fairness to others. So here, yeah, they are definitely examples of the mentor figure. It's like he already had powers. He might have had, depending on the interpretation, he might have had teachers to teach him on how to use his powers, or it was probably all trial and error. And there might have been interpretations where he or Ma and Pa can't actually find ways to help him get a handle on his powers. But ultimately, the greatest thing they taught him was his values. And at the end of the day, Superman's values is what makes him a hero, not his powers. It's like if he could definitely help people without his powers. Yeah, Batman is a little more complicated because he had many teachers and no two interpretations are really clear on who taught him. But a lot of interpretations do agree that in the absence of his parents, Alfred took up the rearing and raising of Batman, essentially becoming his surrogate adoptive father. I think in some interpretations, Alfred is his legal father after his parents died. So that is something. So Alfred can be seen as an example of a mentor figure to Batman Bruce Wayne. And yeah, I think this guy's almost good. That leg needs a little more work over here. I'm just still trying to get a handle on thinning and what's a good consistency and what's not a good consistency. Okay, there. I think that's good for now. I'll just let him dry before I work on him some more. And I'll get to another one. So, yeah, that guy is the only one I'm working on tonight without a helmet. So, okay, so this. No, I won't work on this guy just yet. I'll just empty off my paints onto his leg and work on him after his leg dries. So I'll work on this guy next. Okay, who else? And of course, Uncle Ben is an excellent example of the mentor figure or spot for a hero, for Spider-Man specifically, because Spider-Man learned the adage of with great power comes great responsibility from Uncle Ben. Uncle Ben has definitely, with those words alone, shaped Spider-Man's moral code in a way that just left him feeling like the only path he could take was the path laid before him was from Uncle Ben. And he would go on to be Spider-Man and protect and use his powers responsibly. So that is something. I think I'm getting the hang of the proper thinness for the paints here. Still getting there, not quite there yet. So yeah, Uncle Ben, he's definite. His words alone, coupled with his senseless killing because of Spider-Man's inaction, was what shaped one of the most celebrated heroes of our time. Celebrated fictional heroes of our time. And just spread this out a bit so it's not too thick. Okay, so yeah. And any other? Yeah, I think. And of course, I'm sure Uncle Ben and between Uncle Owen and Aunt Beru, Luke learned some good farm boy values, but I think mainly it was after he lost Owen and Beru where he had to learn mainly Obi-Wan as far as his values was concerned. And, yeah, he did get Yoda later on as a teacher, but as far as where Obi-Wan versus where Yoda is in Luke's story, I think Obi-Wan is more relevant in this case. Or at least in this stage of the story. So, yeah, where Obi-Wan definitely helped him understand the principles of the Force and just how you really need to be a good person to really use the Force, something Yoda would expand upon later. But yeah, he just really laid the foundation for Luke for what it means to be a Jedi, and that you really need to be a good person with heroic attributes in order to be a Jedi. And selfishness has no place in the life of a Jedi. So, those are all definitely good examples of a mentor figure, and how a mentor could really set the hero up for his journey ahead. Okay, so I think I'll focus on... actually, no. My conversations hasn't really been affecting my painting abilities. I feel like I'm painting just fine, talking about whatever as I have been, as I would otherwise. So I don't see little reason to be like, okay, I'll just finish painting in so I can focus. I'll just hold off on the talking so I can focus on painting. I'm doing just fine in that regard, which is good. Okay. But yeah, so I think this guy's almost done with his stage of the painting. Just need to get in there, then get the helmet and the collar. Then I'll be ready to start base coating the next one. Just a little more and he'll be ready to go down to dry. Okay, just one last inspection. And I think he is ready. Okay. Just drop some paint there on the leg real quick. And the foot. There. He's ready. Alright. Let's see how well this guy's leg is dried. Now, I'll give him a little longer before I paint him up. I'll do this guy. Now, before I go on to the next topic of heroism, let's just take a quick look at this guy. This guy and this guy over here, who I won't be painting tonight. Let's see if I can get better focus. These guys are excellent examples of how my base coating, of how my priming method works. I use gesso for the first layer, then I use a mix of gesso with black acrylic paint. Then I top it off with a light coating of gesso and black with more white gesso than black. So I'm excited to see how this part of the painting goes with him. Okay. Little too thin. But I think for this, that's okay with how dark this guy is. I think the others needed a thicker layer, but I think this guy can start with a thinner layer. Though now I've run out of paint, so let's go ahead and go for a thicker consistency. Yeah, so next, actually before I talk about the next one, I'm going to get a drink real quick. Okay. Now let's proceed. The next phase of heroism, crossing the threshold. That kind of intertwines with the mentor in depending on how things go. Like for some people, you're forced to cross the threshold as you meet the mentor, or you meet the mentor after being forced to cross the threshold. I can't think of such examples off the top of my head, but I know such examples exist. So, if anyone in the chat would like to bring up such an example, you're more than welcome to. And a quick note on the painting. I really like how this idealized coating of mine is working well with the paint. So I'm really happy with that. Okay, back to the topic at hand. Crossing the threshold. That's essentially where you have, whether you choose to or circumstance forces you to, have truly abandoned your life before going on the path of the hero and truly start walking that path. So, for chosen ones, they are excellent examples of being, unless they're like prepared chosen ones and they know they were chosen from the start, they're excellent examples of being forced to get off the, I can't think. Being forced to cross the threshold. It's like, no matter what they want, they're chosen, so they have to cross that threshold whether they want to or not. But most of the time, you're choosing to cross it because a regular person walking the path of the hero has to decide, are they going to cower into their mundane life, or are they going to go out and make a difference and go fight the good fight, whether metaphorically or literally. Because some heroic paths don't involve fighting whatsoever. It could just involve doing good by others, doing charity work that changes the lives of those you're doing the work for. So that is definitely an example of heroism where you're not fighting anyone. But the more exciting stories, admittedly, are the ones where fighting's involved. So, an example of crossing the threshold in Spider-Man's case was, as we've touched on earlier, is the loss of his Uncle Ben. He made the choice to continue on with his path and to be Spider-Man for the good of others and not just for personal gain like he initially did. It's like he chose to be the defender of those who can't defend themselves, because that's what someone with his powers and abilities would do responsibly. And in Batman's case, his crossing the threshold was one part losing his parents and another part deciding to use the experience as a motivation to help people not have to go through what he went through. And he turned his back on any chance he could have had at a normal rich boy life, because he, unlike most heroes, he started out with what most people would consider as having everything. He could have just decided, Mommy and Daddy aren't around anymore, I can live it up now. But no, he decided the more important thing to do is to make sure no one else had to suffer the way he did. And so and that was the other part of his crossing the threshold, was deciding to let the experience make him better than worse, and to actually pursue a path that would result in not only helping people but putting himself in physical harm in order to do it. Not recklessly, mind you, because he trained himself to physical perfection, as I believe is paraphrased from the Golden Age telling of his origin story. So, he made sure he was ready for that life before he committed to it. And in Superman's case, oddly for being unhuman, he probably had the most human crossing of the threshold moment out of the ones mentioned before. 1 second. Yeah, I just want to dry this spot up as quickly as I can. Okay, I think that's dry enough. Okay, so. Yeah, so. His is one of the more human crossing the thresholds, because his was very much how we cross our most of us cross our threshold in real life, which is simply coming of age and deciding what to do with your life now that you're older. And he's very similar to Spider-Man in the sense of great power comes great responsibility. But he didn't suffer a personal tragedy to motivate him in that regard. He decided that when I come of age, I'm going to use my natural talents responsibly to help people. And he chose a profession that would put him in the best position possible to do that, because news reporters hear about the goings-ons of the world more than sooner than most people. You could say, why should he do that when he has super hearing? But even with super hearing, he's not going to instantly just have the news just installed to his ears 24/7. It's like, not everyone's going to be loudly proclaiming that, Superman, I'm in trouble, please help. Sometimes you need the news to really show you what's happening when you're a hero. And being a reporter, he isn't just the first one to find out about the news. He gets it firsthand most of the time. Or secondhand if you count hearing it from Lois Lane at times. But it might as well be firsthand, because for all of Lois's faults, she is an honest reporter. She does report the news honestly. In some interpretations, she's less honorable at first, but one thing that hasn't changed is her journalistic integrity, for the most part. And so, yeah, he could always trust Lois's journalism to point him in the right direction for the injustices that need correcting. So, with him, it was a life path he chose for himself from the beginning, in no small part due to his mentor figures, that of his mom and father, and in some interpretations his space dad, Jor-El, his biological father, who left him in some form or fashion some recordings of his words, or an AI version of himself, what have you, with hopes and dreams of what they would like for him to do with his life on the world they sent him. So that is how Superman's crossing the threshold is the most human out of all of them, despite not being inhuman. I mean, literally inhuman, not figuratively inhuman. Being an alien from outer space and all. Yeah, and it just comes to show, also, not saying all Kryptonians are bad, because it depends on interpretation and the interpretation you're looking at, but Krypton wasn't by and large when it shaped him. It was his parents and their American values that shaped him into a good man. And so, but because of those teachings, that gave him a very informed, allowed him to have a very informed decision on whether he wanted to cross that threshold when he came of age or not. And the rest, as they say, is history. One of, if not the greatest superhero ever put to story. It's like, he isn't the first. I do have a video on who the actual first is, or arguably the actual first on this YouTube channel. But he definitely made the superhero household name the world over and really codified what it means to be a superhero. Yes, that so that is Superman's call to adventure, and how surprisingly impactful it is. Just right there. Okay. I think that's pretty much everyone's base coat. So, gotta get a drink. Then I'm gonna prep the paints for the lighter coat to apply over those. Actually, before that, these two need some of that paint I've got. Okay, I've been talking about heroes for an hour, and painting for, 10 minutes before an hour, or 9 minutes before an hour. But still, just shows I do have things to say about the topic, and I'm glad for that. Okay, now, next up, actually before I fully paint this guy up, I'm gonna try and work on his base some. Oh, excuse me. So, next up, on the monomyth is Road of Trials, which is essentially the meat of a heroic story. The Road of Trials is essentially the journey of the story. It's 90% of any movie or book you've ever watched or read. So, yeah, just got kind of distracted by just how this base coat is going on this terrain I have. I typically don't do terrain, but for flying guys like this one, doing terrain I feel is necessary. So they kind of creates the illusion of flying without them, because since they can't float and I don't have any clear plastic for them to be on to help create that illusion further. So just putting them on terrain with them being in the poses they are, like they're taking off for liftoff. I think that is definitely a good way of creating that feeling of flight with models like these. Okay, there's a small tangent on modeling and the philosophies of models that are with the appearance of flying. Okay, so I'll just let his base dry some before I either put another layer on or just work on the model all around. And I'm gonna work on this guy some. So, Road of Trials. So, Road of Trials could easily be seen as just simply fighting crime, going on a journey, or even just learning about what you need to do. Like, because in some heroic adventures, a part of the journey is just learning about what to do next. Like going to the library to read a book on where the next artifact is for a story similar to Indiana Jones, for example, where research is just as much a part of the story, is just as much a part of the journey as is the actual journeying part. And speaking of, I think that was the first time I've mentioned Indiana Jones on this channel. Yeah, he is definitely an interesting example of a hero. Like, he champions the cause of knowledge and the preservation thereof of knowledge. And he understands that leaving artifacts in their natural where they are will eventually erode them over time, and they will be lost to history. Understanding that the safest place for such things is, in fact, in a museum where people will painstakingly take care to preserve them for generations to come. Because, yet, those things are worth preserving. They are human history. And some aspects of history will not be discovered unless we go to discover them. And history is important because, as the saying goes, those who do not learn from the history are doomed to repeat it. So that is an example of the importance of a hero like Indiana Jones. He fights one of the things you could say he fights for is to preserve our knowledge of our history so that we can understand what worked for us as a species and what didn't work for us as a species, so we don't have to go through the same trial and error as our ancestors did. So that is a journey of heroism you could take. And it's a rather good one now that I'm thinking on it. So it's one worth taking for sure. This guy's a lot of robes, so he's not as easy to paint his armor as the other guys are. But that just means I have to work harder on it to an extent. Okay, so and what other examples of the road of trials can I think of are the journey part of the hero's journey, if you'd like to label it as such, which wouldn't be an untrue statement. So, I got some paint on me. Need to be careful. I have to reapply some paint here because I wasn't careful. That's why I need to be careful. I don't have a paint. Yeah, so just have to stick to just holding this stand. You have to be careful not to hold actual parts of the model as I'm working on it. Yeah. I just realized this part is an arm-mounted gun, not just spikes, like spiked fingers. So I'm gonna have to remember that as I paint him further, to paint that like it's a gun, because that's what it is. Just try and get into the crevice. I think I can use some of this to kind of add a wash quality to it. Oh, I have to try not to hit the light. Getting the inside of that hand as well. I may need to put some more paint on the wet palette. The other examples. Of course, there are literary examples like Lord of the Rings, where the journey is the journey to destroy the One Ring, and for other members, when the Fellowship breaks off, is the journey to make sure that they still have a free Middle-earth left for them to have once the ring is destroyed, because there's no point for Frodo destroying the ring if the world is all doomed and conquered by the time they've destroyed the ring. So, that is an excellent point of the hero's journey for the non-main characters. Well, they're all main characters, but the one who isn't the main protagonist, I guess, is the more accurate way to describe them. need to put some more right here. I think I've almost got this head nice and painted. Finish on the sword here, then I think I can let this guy kind of dry, though I'm going to try and add some paint on the cape here to help bring down the brightness from the previous painting layers I did. There. Okay. That foot needs just a little more paint. I think he's good for now. Just put him all the way back here. Having some itching. Dealing with some itching too. So, yeah, it's kind of hard to focus because of that. But there's some fuzz here I need to get. If I had my tweezers out, then I could use those, but sometimes you just have to use what you can. Got it. Okay. I'm gonna... Okay, just... Okay, now so let's get this guy painted up. Right, I am liking how these guys are coming out. The green, yeah, the work is really bearing fruit in that regard for these guys. There we go. Sometimes you just gotta reposition how you hold the figure. Okay. Any more crossing the thresholds examples I can think of? Yeah. Then of course, going back to Star Wars, it's like going to Mos Eisley to get away off the planet, then trying to get out of the Death Star with the princess intact and themselves intact as they go on. And then there's also and once they get to the Rebel base, there's also the journey of destroying the Death Star, which kind of goes into one of the next parts of the journey. Well, that one came on a little thick. Let's try and bring that down some. Okay, just to get it on that arm there. On the hand. Okay. Don't want to take too much off because I want there to be paint on this shield, but have to be careful not to put too much on. Okay, so yeah, so I think that's a good segue to the next part of the journey, which is Road of Trials. Yeah, that's what we were just talking about. And I guess helpers. Well, that's also something. That's more like something that happens along the way. How's the great work going? It is going well. Yeah, I wasn't planning on this tonight. I was planning on an FGO stream, but as I said at the start of the stream, the software was acting up. I managed to get my login, but that was about it. So I decided to continue on with the great work of the Salamander Army. So I've just been painting these guys up, and I've been talking about the hero's journey along the way. So I'm really liking how these guys are coming out. Once I've got this guy coated with this first layer, I'm going to move on to the second coat. I'm starting with a darker layer of green tonight. Well, that one came out a little lighter. Guess it's mixing in with the with the lighter green I put the darker green on. But I think it'll still work. So once I have all that in place, I'll move on to the other green, to a lighter green that will go over. Yeah, I do have my codex on the side to reference in how to color them. Is this guy plastic or pewter? Neither. He's 3D printed resin. But I stumbled on, I'll showcase it with this guy over here real quick. This guy is a plastic. Is a plastic mini, but I stumbled onto the last stream on how to best prime them, and I was using gesso for the first layer. Then the second layer was a mix of black paint with gesso, about 50-50, and the last layer was about kind of 20% black paint and 80% or 70% white gesso for the last layer of prep. And it kind of gives them an interesting look, and I really like it, and I'm looking forward to see how they turn out. So let's finish this guy up, then I can move on to the next layer. Oh yeah, he does have a metallic look to him. I think that's kind of the that kind of has to do with how the 3D printing process goes. It has a kind of texture to it for this guy. I don't know if we fixed the settings on the 3D printer since then or not, but that's definitely how it came across with him as he got printed. Okay, so just get that hammer real quick, and that should be it for this guy. Okay. I'll just that crevice down here. Such things are easy to miss. Bug. No, I'm glad you like it. It does add a very satisfying effect to it. Well, I think that's this guy done. They have all received their first coats. So I'm gonna move on to the next one and apply the lighter coats. I'm gonna quickly turn this over so I can okay, so let's see, what green should I use next? I think I'll use this one. This will be the next green I use. It's just slightly lighter than the previous one. What are your thoughts on the new Fulgrim model? Oh, that I was not expecting him to look the way he did. Yeah, I knew Primarchs and Space Marines that fell to Chaos can go through some demonic transformations, as was the case with the Word Bearer Sorcerer at the in the final level of the base game for Warhammer Dawn of War who became a demon prince. But I didn't realize that such transformations could be so transformative. Yet it also fits with the aesthetics that the guy has, because as I've been researching Warhammer 40k and more specifically the Horus Heresy, I definitely have gotten to know some of Fulgrim's story and how his legion is kind of the poster boys for perfection, and I feel like that definitely fits between his pursuit of personal perfection, or what he deems as personal perfection, mixed with his allegiance to Slaanesh. The look just works very well. Before I proceed, I need to add some more droplets here for the thinning. That too much. Didn't add in that much when I first started earlier, but what the hey. No, that was just a part of the learning process. But yeah, Fulgrim, yeah. And the guy, his model's huge. It's like, I saw someone on YouTube saying him by himself would take up an entire IKEA shelf all on his own. And I can easily believe that. He definitely has some final boss vibes to him. It's like, I could easily see him, or see someone with that aesthetic at least, being the final boss of a video game or a role-playing game. So, they did a good job on his demonic look. I definitely approve. Oh yeah. Yeah. I wouldn't. Yeah, if I had a lot of extra money, he would have been a day one buy for me. Even though I wouldn't necessarily be building his legion to go with him. Yeah. Despite how much I would like him, he's definitely not one of my top Primarch picks. That is obvious. That would obviously be Vulcan for me. Only imagine what the 40k version would look like. Oh yeah, as far as I'm aware, he's still alive by the end of the Horus Heresy, so who knows how much his transformation has gone through during the 40k era. So, I would definitely be interested in seeing how do you say that name? Looking at the comments here, Fulgrim. Seeing Fulgrim in the 40k universe and seeing how much he has changed from his Horus Heresy look. That would definitely be an interesting sight. Get anything else on here? Yeah, the green's coming out pretty well on this guy. I'm definitely liking how this is going. Okay. I think just the rims of his shoulder pad and his back. And this guy will be good. This paint's definitely applying lighter than I thought it would. Okay, just get those crevices there. Okay, I don't see where else I could apply some. No, I guess I can apply just a little bit more on the leg here. Okay, there we go. Okay, just put the most recently painted ones on the back. Okay. Apparently, according to the rumors, his wings get more feathery. Interesting. We're gonna go into... Oh, that'd be interesting to have an emperor's children army. So that'd be something to show off once you and your brother have that set up. So, yeah. It'll be good to put the resin Primarch with his legion when you have that all set up. So be sure to post pictures of that in the Discord when that day comes. Yes. Nope, that was a little too thin, but that's okay. Okay. So where was I on the discussion of heroisms? Oh yeah, helpers. That's where I was on. So that can, like I mentioned earlier, that can kind of happen at any phase of the hero's journey, because helpers are, as the name implies, people who help. They can help you make your decision on the call to adventure. They can help you with your mentor or learn alongside you at the feet of your mentor. They can walk with you on crossing the threshold, or they can be an instrumental part into why you cross the threshold. And they can be with you along the way through the road of trials as well. So helpers can very well apply to any phase of the hero's journey. Though I guess in terms of its placement in the books, this books I'm looking at placement, I guess you can definitely meet some helpers along the road of trials as you go throughout your journey. Oh wow. Those are some good. Yeah, I'm looking for. Yeah, those are some awesome picks. I eventually do want to get myself either a Traitor Legion for Horus Heresy or a Chaos Legion for 40k, because I would definitely love to be able to pit my brother's Black Templars against either a Traitor Legion or a Chaos Legion someday. So it's definitely not anytime soon ambition, but definitely on the list of things to do one day. Because I feel like, especially if you play Horus Heresy, having a Traitor Legion would be good, because if you want to keep your battles in lore, then one group playing with a Traitor Legion and the other a Loyalist Legion is definitely a must-do. But if it's just for fun, then you don't really need to have one Traitor Legion and one Loyalist Legion. You can just use whatever you have and have fun with it. Yep, it definitely makes the fights more narrative when one has a Loyalist and the other has Traitor. Yeah. I'm having a lot of fun painting these Primaris Flamers, but I am definitely looking forward to getting my Horus Heresy Age of Darkness Marines assembled and painted up. So, yeah, these guys have been waiting longer, and it'd be no fair to put them on the back burner. And besides, I saw that trailer to that Warhammer Plus series with the Primaris Salamander in it, and that just makes me want to have a fully painted Primaris Salamander myself all the more. So I have all the reasons to paint these guys before my Horus Heresy stuff. Okay, just a little bit on his head, then I'll leave him to... No, there's some in the recesses here. There. Okay. Anywhere else? No, I think this guy's good to put off to the side now. Oh. Just wipe that off real quick. Okay, let's take a look at the chat. Yeah, about that, my brother and I are both have traitor legions for Horus Heresy. Yeah. But your dad has blood angels. Oh, I do not have decals. I'm actually going to try and freehand the flame details. Yeah, so one day I want to get decals, but as of right now, I am done getting Warhammer anything for myself for the rest of the year. Getting the Horus Heresy Age of Darkness box ate up the rest of my Warhammer budget for the year. So, if I get anything more Warhammer this year, it'll be as a gift to someone else I know who wants some. But yeah. So, next year I definitely hope to look into getting decals, but I am definitely going to freehand the flames. Yes, it will be interesting to see how that goes. Alright, next up, this guy. Yeah, I'm really liking how this Dollar Tree paint's applying. Between the layer I put on before, and just how this is coming out of the bottle darker but drying lighter. It's definitely a good look. Oh yeah, among my first I do know there will be some more Space Marines coming out next year. Oh yeah, that Terminator chaplain. I don't have any chaplains yet, and when I saw that chaplain, I thought, yeah, he's going to be one of the first things I get next year. Maybe not the very first thing I get next year, but one of them. I know what I'd like to get first thing next year, but whether I could work it into the budget or not is a different question. I'd like to get myself a Vulcan resin figure, but I'll have to see where I am financially at the time. But even if I don't get him at the start of the year, I'm at least going to save up for him from the start of next year to whenever I've got it all saved up. Yes, Horus Heresy Vulcan. I saw him and I was like, I must have him. Then I saw the price and I was like, no! Because, yeah. But my goal is to definitely have an army of salamanders all nice, painted, and ready for him when he comes. I may even do maybe have a photo shoot of the salamanders welcoming their Primarch home. And all without having to find all the treasures first. Though that is something I'd like to see in the official lore, is the return of Vulcan, and whether they find all the treasures first or not. And even if he doesn't return, at least show us something that he's doing something out there before he decides to make his actual return. So I'd like to see more hints of Vulcan's activities in the lore, regardless of whether he makes his actual return or not. Okay. Yeah, it's definitely easier just doing these guys first rather than just trying to do a whole swath of them like these guys over here. I'll definitely paint them up on a separate stream. I know I'm getting some excuse me. I'm definitely getting some goblin minis that I'm going to be getting from a Kickstarter I backed, and I'm hoping to use those as proxies for some orcs related stuff. Maybe as Gretchens or whatever. I need to study up more on orcs and their terminology in 40k. Yes, so anyway, back to the topic of heroes. The return flight. So, the return flight is essentially what happens on the at the what could be seen as the end of a hero's journey. Is, as the name implies, your flight home. Sometimes it can be literal, but most of the time it's figurative. Which, as Samwise Gamgee called it, the journey home, or the return journey, where they go home after they've won the battle. They fulfilled their mission as the hero. But that can be a journey unto itself. It could even be a final installment to a series as well, because in this I see the return journey and the return flight and threshold return as two separate parts. So you could definitely have the actual journey home and the actual getting home as two separate steps. The greatest example of which would be Odysseus in the Odyssey. I have a copy of the Odyssey on my bookshelf that way somewhere, but it's in a box, and I just earlier today got a new bookshelf, so I'm hoping I can put it up on the bookshelf for me to grab whenever I want. I still haven't read through the Odyssey the whole way through because I'm still reading through the Iliad. Haven't been able to touch the Iliad since getting ready for my move to where I'm at now. And I'm only gonna recently be able to have ready access to the Iliad, the Odyssey, and the Aeneid. So I'm looking forward to reading those again. But anyway, but I have seen a movie on the Odyssey, so I can definitely give the broad strokes of that, which the whole story of the Odyssey is essentially an entire story of the return flight. They've just conquered Troy. Yes, that's right. They just conquered Troy. Then they're going home, and for one reason or another, the god Poseidon gets angry, so he decides to make their journey to Ithaca anything but easy. And so they journey to Ithaca, and that's how you get an entire story out of the return journey portion of the hero's tale. It is quite the happening. Quite being taken years to cross the sea just to get home. It's very grueling. And being the only one to survive the end of the journey as well. That's... Odysseus did not have it easy when getting home. And when he actually did get home, finding that everyone partying at his pad, trying to get his wife to marry them, it's like... Some could say he overreacted towards the suitors when he got home, but I will say it's an understandable reaction, regardless of whether you can question just how far he took it. But that entire story is a shining example of how an entire story can be a return flight. And then, of course, there's the threshold to return. I'll quickly read this real quick from the book. Again with the symmetry, this is a single story point at which the protagonist crosses a boundary, departing the worlds of wonder and stepping into the realm of the mundane. So the hero once again returns to the regular world that he left behind to be on his heroic journey. So he crosses the threshold in the opposite direction now. And he's back home where everything's mundane, but things are not going to ever be the same for him as before that he crossed over. And which quickly leads into the last part, which is homecoming. He has obtained the prize, which could range from world peace, wealth to get your family out of poverty, or an entire kingdom all your own. Depends on the story, really, but the point is there's a prize. It doesn't necessarily have to be just for himself or for himself at all. It could be a community prize, whether his own community or someone else's community. But there is a prize, and he has obtained it, and he has come home with it. So he has come home with that, but regardless of what the prize is, in the end, the hero is not the man or woman he or she was when he crossed the first threshold to leave the mundane world into the world of unmundaneness, the extraordinary world where anything but the mundane happens. He is a more learned man or woman, a person who sees the world completely different from how that person saw the world before embarking on the journey that led them out of their mundane life. And that person has to learn how to cope with their with life in the mundane world as the person they are now. For some people it's easy. For some, the answer is just to go on another journey. But ultimately, the hope is that you can now lead a happier life as a changed person, because now you're the person you're always meant to be. And by being the person you're always meant to be, you can definitely take your life in a direction that can lead you and those you care for to greater happiness. And even just being the person you're meant to be can bring you happiness to your loved ones. It is definitely important that the hero is not the same when he comes home as he was when he left. And it's very hard to be anything but different when you return home. Because that is the power of being on a hero's journey. A lot of things change. Hardly anything will stay the same. And that is my discussion on the Campbellian myth as presented in the Extreme Dungeon Mastery 2nd edition book. So I'm glad I was able to have this discussion. It's like, I understand this YouTube channel's about heroes and what makes a hero and why we like heroes. So if I'm going to be streaming myself painting minis or just drawing art, then I'm definitely hoping to incorporate the topic of heroes into my streams more. I know I'm happy talking about heroes, and I would definitely like to bring that same joy to others as I talk more about them. This brush needs more paint. It's a little too thin. Okay, let's try it now. Okay, a little better. Yeah. I guess what we could call this is the free time. The time where the chat can regale me with anything they want to talk about. Not that they couldn't before, as was the case with Hollow. It's like we had a nice time talking about Warhammer. And I've come to like talking about Warhammer as I've become more and more a full-fledged fan of Warhammer 40k and the Horus Heresy. So, I know I'm hoping to finish reading all the lore in my Leviathan book I got. I don't have the Leviathan set, but my brother and I were able to find a copy of the Leviathan book on eBay that I got. And I've just been enjoying that they give you enough of the lore to really engross yourself in the world of 40k. And really give you a sense of what you want to collect in that world. So, I'm definitely hoping to take time to finish reading all the lore in Leviathan and, of course, read the rules on the war games side of things. And then I'm going to move on to my Horus Heresy Age of Darkness rulebook, read the lore there, and of course the rules. So I have the Grey Knights novel. I'm hoping to read that, and I have an Inquisitor book I'm hoping to read. And my brother gave me access to his Kindle copy of the Salamander's Omnibus. I read one of the stories in there, and I'm hoping to read more as I go on. Yeah. Just to get those, getting the edges now before I have to put the main color on them. This helmetless guy is definitely the harder out of my flamers to paint, but not by much. I'm definitely looking forward to naming these guys. I want to name each of my Marines. Yes, I have a lot to name, but most of them aren't assembled yet. And I'm looking forward to doing battle reports with them as well. I'm working on my very first battle report, but getting my new YouTube channel up and running has been taken priority. Try not to get too much green on his head, since his head's already for the most part the colors I would like it to be. Okay, guess that guy's done. Now back to the 3D prints. Okay, well, let's check to make sure he's dry first. Yeah, this guy's dry, so let's do him. Try and make sure this is adequately thinned. Maybe a little too thin. But yeah, with what my brother told me about the behavior of acrylics, this looks worse than it actually is. Though that doesn't mean I won't treat it a bit to keep it from glopping up, like in that video on YouTube where it's just showcasing why you should thin your paints. If that is a good way to encourage people to thin their paints. I shared it on Discord before. So if anyone's interested in seeing the video in question, you can either look up why you should thin your paints, or I can just simply share it again if you're interested. Okay. Been definitely wanting to paint up this 3D printed jump trooper, if I'm getting my names right, for a while, so I'm happy to finally be getting to it. Just realized he has this cross arrow symbol on his pauldron, so I'll have to keep that in mind as I continue painting him. Oh. Get into those recesses. I think I'll need a bigger glob for that, since... Yeah, there we go. Getting some good paint coverage on this guy. Of course, he is a beaky, which is my favorite helmet type. So this definitely is doing a good job of tiding me over until I can do my Horus Heresy models. Good way to tide you over for sure. Yes, indeed. And hopefully it won't be too much longer, since I'm working on all of these guys. Just applying green layers to all of them, and when they're all finally done, then I'm gonna be busting out the my horsehair sea boys and just really taken some time to assemble them. But yeah, I do. If memory serves correctly, I should. Not I. There should be some horsehair sea jump, jetpack Space Marines coming out near the start of next year. So that's probably going to be the first new Warhammer anything I get next year. Because I would like to have some beaky jetpack guys to go along with this guy. May not be right at the start of the year, but I'll definitely keep my eyes open for when they finally drop. Okay, not much on this guy before I can put him down to get to the next one. Come on. There we go. Here. There. Little thin there. I think this guy's good for his next layer. Oh, just except on the knee there. Oop, there. Right. Now for this guy. Horsehair sea Volk. Oh, wait. Already read that one. Okay, let's get the next layer of green on this guy. I'm definitely trying to come up with some lore for this guy. I looked up loyalists from Trader Legions to see if I could work with that, but then I learned that most of those guys, if not all of them, would go on to be founding members of the Grey Knights, so I thought, nah, that won't work. Though it makes me like the Grey Knights more, because a lot of what I learned is Malkador the Sigillite really saw them in a good light because he saw them as having the strength to defy their Primarch in order to stay loyal to the Emperor. So, the stories of loyalists from Trader Legions is definitely an interesting bit of lore from what I've seen. Jump Assault. Yes, thank you, Hollow. I definitely want those Jump Assault guys next year. Don't want to add too much of this green on the cape because I have some particular ideas for how I want to do the cape, but I still need to add some new green on here regardless. May need to pour out some more paint, though at the same time this is the last guy who needs this particular paint. So I probably won't need to shouldn't need to squirt out some more of this paint tonight. This particular paint, I mean. But yeah, I'm definitely trying to come up with lore for this guy as to why he's so different from his fellow salamanders. Yeah, but so I'm just doing my as best to study the lore as much as possible so I can come up with an idea for this guy's backstory. Okay. Nearly done with this layer. Try and do some semi-dry brushing on his cloth bits. I think he's coming along pretty well. The hidden details should become clear as the paint goes on. So let's just get a quick beauty shot of these guys before I move on to the next color. Yep, coming along pretty well. Definitely going from darker shades to lighter shades is doing this justice. I don't want to go just purely this color, so I'll mix this with the colors I have on there already. Oh, a little much. And a little bit of this one too. Just, alright. I seriously can't put too much of this one. There we go. Perfect. Okay, first off, let's clean this brush. And get some of this soapy water here. Just mix these in. Still enough water in here that I can use to thin it out, so I don't need to add any more water to this. Perhaps I need a little bit more of this green here. Just a little bit more. Oh, you know what? That's probably going to be enough. Yeah, it's having the effect I was hoping for. There we go. That's what I want. Let's try and get all this excess off the brush. Just okay. Now, no, still mostly wet. Okay, who is the most dry out of all of you guys? They're all still mostly, still wet in places. Yeah. You know what I'm going to do is get this guy here, my very first Space Marine. I'm going to do a little preview of what I have ultimately planned for him. He's going to be Death Watch, but I'm adding some details here that'll make him stand out from other Death Watch Space Marines. Yeah, I'm definitely working on his backstory. I'm liking how his backstory's shaping up. I'll definitely reveal it when I, someday in the form of a YouTube video, so I'm looking forward to making that someday. Get that off there. Yeah. There. and on his foot here. There. And I think that's enough of that paint there. Just even there. So that is his now updated look. So just a hint of my ultimate plans for this guy. Okay, so let's check this. Yes, so just definitely don't want to call it here for tonight, at least not before I add one last layer to these guys. But at the same time, I don't want to wait too long for them to dry. So what I will do is I'll look for the one who's the most dry and just blow on him, see if that helps. Yeah, this guy looks like he's the most dry, so here we go. I won't do this for too long. One more. Okay, there. That did help some, but yeah. So I'm just going to take a look at this guy real quick first. Yeah, he's definitely not ready for another layer. So, guess what? Yeah, I'll just work on this side and leave this leg for last with him. Okay, just okay, let's get some of this loaded on the brush and let's have at it. Little too much, but I think the over thinness here may actually work to its advantage. It should thin in a manner that it should dry in a manner that lets the colors underneath shine. Not for long. Okay. Well, I'm glad you're back for however long you're gonna be, and I am, and I have been grateful for the time you spent on this live stream. So, thanks for joining me, and I'm grateful for how long you're. Excuse me. I'm grateful for how long you're gonna be on before you have to go. So yeah, it's always a pleasure having you on stream with us. Okay, so this. Yeah, so I think this will be my last layer on these guys for tonight, before I call it for the stream. Okay, so little. Yeah, I wanna like thin the paints out more so with this layer than I have been with the other layers. Okay. So, yeah, so it'll be nice to have these guys nice and ready to flame the Xeno scum. I guess depending on who you ask, they could be considered rebel scum too, but they'd have to be a part of the Imperium for that, and As far as I know, no Xeno scum has ever been admitted to allowed citizenship in the Imperium of Man. So, yeah. Yes. This has been pretty nice. A little more water on that. There we go. I really want this last layer on these guys to be super thin. Okay. So, here we go. There. Get some up here. I think this guy is done for the most part for tonight. I think once that all that thin paint dries, it'll come out pretty well. I think the League of Votan are, I could be wrong about that, our politically correct term, squats. Ah. Interesting. I will definitely have to look that up. Squats. Huh. Okay, work on that guy's leg last. I think that's going to be a trend for this last coat. Yeah, squats. Votam. So much to learn. I guess that's one of the joys of getting into the hobby. You're not going to run out of things to learn anytime soon. So I can just spend days, maybe even weeks consuming, and I'd still only be scratching the surface. Thin. This layer needs to be real thin. Okay, there we go. Sometimes you just get the right consistency on the brush that goes on right and you wish it doesn't go, but then need to refill your brush and it just doesn't feel like the next application is going to be as consistent. But that's probably just because I'm a beginner. Well, regardless, it's still fun. The face just needs a little bit more. Okay, this guy also seems ready. Now for this guy. This guy seems to have dried fully. Just there. There we go. Yeah, definitely improving. I am liking the progress I'm making in my painting skills. Definitely makes me want to keep pursuing this hobby. Yeah. Okay. Oh no. Gonna make it. Keep got pretty quiet. Well, I finished talking about my main topic for the channel, I guess. So, okay, so what else could I talk about for the remainder of the stream? Let's get some water on that. There we go. So, yeah, I guess I definitely see how I've improved since I painted my first Space Marine. My first set of Space Marines, I guess. I'm definitely thinking about the consistencies of the paint more. I'm thinking about how they will dry and how thick they look versus how thick they're gonna be after they dry. And thinking about how the colors will look after they're laid on top of each other. It's definitely been quite the journey, and I've been very happy with it. So, yeah, just keep on at it. Eventually, I'll get to a point where my space minis could really stand tall with their paint job. Oh, no, didn't mean to do that. There, that should work. Okay. That's this guy. Oh! Thankfully, he didn't lose too much paint from that. Okay. Let's take... Oh, jeez. Well, that sort of thing happens, I guess. Okay, guess I'll take the opportunity to... There we go. Oh, there we go. Dry. I try to keep as neat, as far as paint messes go, as neat of a cleaning station as I can. Of a workstation I can. Just getting that pointed out right. Okay. Guess I'll give him a few blows. Okay. Hey, get off my desk, bug. What happened? Oh, I just got some paint on here. It didn't take much to rub it off. And a bug decided to visit my workstation. He didn't get on camera from the looks of it, but yeah, bugs. Yeah, there's a time and a place for bugs. And painting your minis is neither the time nor the place for bugs. Okay. Now, get. It's there. So, yeah. Think I'm capturing the effect I had on that one Space Marine from that time I was on Sam's stream painting minis, where we were both doing two different things on the same stream. I'd like to have another stream like that with him someday, where we're both just doing two separate things on camera. That was quite a fun stream. I don't know of too many people who do that, so it'd definitely be fun to be able to do that again. Maybe even start a trend. Can't say I've been a trendsetter too often in my life, but it would make me feel a little nice to know that I set a trend here and there. Definitely make me feel like I'm succeeding on YouTube better. Getting him off. Need to remember to keep him on camera. Yeah. There we go. Just put some water on them. Just as much experimentation as it is using what I've been learning on YouTube. Definitely like my experience in this hobby. Get on in there. There we go. Okay. Now the head on this guy. Alright, I'm good. Alright, we're glad to have you on here, Hollow. Have a good night. We'll talk to you more on Discord. Hopefully, things will go a lot better on the FGO side of things. Have a good night, and I'll see you later. There. Okay. Getting close to the last models of the night. Ah, my ear. Okay. Oh, I did it again. So. Heresy grows from idleness. I like the quotes from Dawn of War. They definitely help add character to the hobby. Oh! Jeez. Maybe I should just glue his backpack on him. Okay. 2 more and I'll be done for tonight. How are you? You ready for another coat? He could use is another coat on his base. Now there. Okay, let's check this guy. He's still wet in some key spots. You know what? I may just call it here if that's the case. Yep. Just get this guy up here. Yeah. Tonight was mostly just getting greens down. I may add the extra layers of this color to these two off stream in preparation for the stream after. But aside from that, I think tonight was a pretty successful stream. So I'm very happy with how much progress I made. I'm gonna get some extra color on here before I call it. Come on. Behave, brush. There we go. So, I am very happy with how this turned out. Definitely getting the hang of caring for my brushes, getting the hang of the right amounts of paints to dry. Definitely getting towards that plastic army man green on these guys. I don't know if I'll perfectly replicate that on them or not, but I'm liking how it's turning out. I think these guys are getting near done. I'm gonna need to color their pauldrons, their insignias, their jetpacks, and the flame details, and of course their weapons. I'll need to paint those. And these guys definitely are going to need the most work out of all. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 of these. Then once all 7 of them are painted up, I'll start putting together my Horus Heresy stuff. So I look forward to that. So thank you all for watching. I had a good night tonight. Thank you again to Hollow for being on, even though he's off by now. But thank you all the same. Maybe one day you'll watch the archive and watch this part. So thank you again, Hollow. Thank you to all who watched after the stream is over, who watched it as an archive. Until the next time I paint, hopefully I'll get an FGO stream done tomorrow. And I will see y'all next time. Good night, everybody.